Welcome to the show. This is Wingman's Hangar, episode 48. We're only 2 shows away from our 1-year anniversary of 50 shows. That is amazing, and it's all thanks to you guys. We're pretty blown away by that, too. If you don't know what this is about, this is kind of an inside look at everything that goes on inside CIG and on a weekly basis, what we're doing while we make this glorious Chris Roberts project, Star Citizen. Let's get right to it. Well, coming up today, we have the Week in Review. We have an interview with Outsource Manager Shawn Murphy, and Shawn and I go way back. There's some pretty interesting stuff to talk about there. We have forum feedback coming up with your questions and videos. We have a new surprise segment, something I think you guys are going to like. So we're going to change things around a little bit. We're moving forum feedback down in the segments a little. It's going to come later, and then it's going to lead into a really, really nice surprise, which I think everybody in the verse is going to be excited about. So what went on this week in review? Well, finally, the Austin office got signed. All the lease papers are signed, buttoned up. The lawyers got involved, took an extra 2 months to get it done, but that's what happens when you get lawyers out there. But they're important. They protect us, and we know that, and probably a lot of them are pledgers as well, so thanks to that. But it's signed, and we now have a move-in date. It's December 28th. We're going to be buttoning up the Austin office and getting all the stuff together, and Mike Jones, who you meet at another time, is our IT manager. So he and I are probably going to have to work that week between Christmas and New Year's to get the new office up. So when the people from the Austin office come to work on January 2nd, they'll be in the brand new office. And of course, we'll show you what's going on along the way. So thanks to you guys. There was a stretch goal for it. We're getting out of, you see the hangar here, but we are really in a basement. And we're excited to be getting out there. It's going to be nice. It's going to let us expand a little bit. We're pretty short-staffed at the moment, all over. And it's really, really good. We're really excited about it and looking forward to it. And again, big thanks to you guys. More thanks for you. I mean, you guys, it's amazing. Live stream. We had an incredible live stream last week. We didn't have a Wingman's Hangar because we were doing the live stream. Chris running that out in the Santa Monica office, and he did an incredible job. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen, some of the important parts are on our website and the Inside CIG pieces. You should check those out. So thanks to all of you for an incredible live stream. It was really, really fun. And we'll continue to do those from time to time. And that's up to Sandi. She'll let us know when she wants them, and we'll get them out to you. So that's how it works. Jump Point came out last week, and it came out on Friday. We were closed, but we still came out with a Jump Point. If you are a subscriber, you know how cool this is to get Jump Point magazine. What started out as a 6 to 8 page process is now 50 to 75, depending on what we put into it. And it's pretty cool. It's definitely worth being a subscriber for. And as I alluded to earlier, something's coming up later for the subscribers in today's episode as well. We have, it's time for Fan Focus. From time to time, we here at Cloud Imperium like to see some things that inspire us, that fans have done out there, and Jason Alaska did a good job of putting together this Constellation brochure. Now, you guys know we do brochures as well for all our ships, but Jason, you did a really good job, and we wanted to point that out in case others missed it on the forums. Really, really cool job. Thank you. And guess what? Forrest has stopped by today because he wants to show you something. Now, we've talked a little bit, Forrest, about PBR and what that is, physical-based rendering, right? Right. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to show people, rather than doing the headcam thing, let's just show people what's up. So you want to walk them through what we've got here?
Yeah, so I actually took the engine for the 300i. It was a great model that our very talented artist Chris Smith put together for us. And took the original version that's in the engine now and then ported it over to like the PBR stuff. Just like a little disclaimer, this is like an early look at it.
Oh, right, exactly.
And there's a lot of things in there that aren't actually finalized in there yet. So this is more of a look at how we can separate materials a little more realistically as to what it was before.
Right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Once you started out, let's show people what we got. So the one on top is the PBR.
That's correct.
And so what exactly, this is the engine, and you can tell the difference. The one kind of the bottom looks a little gamey, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does have all the detail, and you know, it looks good with all the scratches and everything, and that's one thing that we don't have in this version. And it has baked AO, which we also don't have in the PBR version.
Right.
But if you notice in the one that's the bottom right, it kind of all looks like metal, like all the way across the board. If you look at the one on the top left, you obviously have your leather. You obviously have your... It went with like a dull anodized dark metal with some aluminum. Then you got your little chrome rings. So again, this was another example of just how much detail that we actually put into the models, and I think that the PPR does a good job of actually demonstrating that.
Oh yeah.
So here's another example. This was the chrome before. This is the chrome now.
Every ship needs some chrome, man.
A little bit,
yeah. A little bling. Amazing. Now we're going to be doing this to not just the engines, but to the entire ships themselves, the hangars, to everything, right?
Everything.
Wow. All right, well, there you go, guys. That's PBR, and we want to give them a little look at that, and thank you, Forrest, for stopping by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's time for a studio report from Manchester, England. Take it away, Aaron.
Hi, this is Aaron Roberts coming to you from Foundry 42. We're in our temporary space, but the great news is we are going to be going into our new space on Monday, which we're really excited about because we're getting kind of crowded here, and we've also had to have 1 or 2 guys working from home for a few weeks, and so now we're all getting together, which is just brilliant. So team's growing, as I said, in the last few weeks. You've obviously met Nick and Derek and Phil before, but also we've got our art director Paul Jones who's joined us. We have one of our lead programmers, David Gill, who's joined us. We have Andrew Lay, who's one of our concept artists, and also Bjorn Snestra, who's one of our artists who's joined us in the last few weeks. And we've really just got going on a bunch of design. We're actually now really getting into some of the mechanics and fleshing out, you know, for the intro, for the first few missions and so forth and things. So hopefully, in the next few weeks, you know, month or so, we can start actually just showing some stuff to you guys, which hopefully you guys will really like. So what we've been focusing on, well, we've really been working hard on the military, obviously, aspects, because of Squadron 42. We've been looking at, you know, basically all the new ships we need on the military side, especially the capital ships. We're spending a lot of time making sure that some of the battles and the fleets involved, because obviously that's going to be a big part of the game, are going to be some really epic battles and some very large ships. And then in the game as well, we're now just working through basically a lot of the elements that are going to be obviously in the persistent universe as well, in terms of, you know, how you know, you navigate within the game. How, you know, you navigate through stuff like asteroid fields, you know, how mining and so forth works in that sort of level and things like that, and how things are set up, and also spending a lot of time working on AI for the spacefighter combat, and in areas like that. And so that's kind of what we've been focusing on, and we have pretty big plans to bring you know, a lot of this on quite soon, so we can start getting this tested, and also the work we do on Squadron 42 also will filter out into the persistent universe after that as well.
Wow, Aaron, that's pretty cool, man. He's getting to move in a new studio, and so are we. And right next to me now is Shawn Murphy. And by the way, before we get to Shawn here, something special is coming up here after forum feedback, so make sure you stay tuned. I know, I think they're going to like it. Hey, Shawn, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good.
Welcome. Now, you're pretty new. You've been here a couple weeks, right?
I think 3 weeks today.
3 weeks today. And what is your role here at Cloud?
I'm the Art Outsource Manager.
There's a lot of art in this game.
There is a whole lot of art, and there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, and we just kind of took a look at the PBR there with Forrest, and yeah, there's going to be a lot more. And so you're tasked with going out there, finding other houses that can help us make this game, and a quality bar is pretty high with what we're working on.
It's extremely high.
Right.
Some of the talent we're working with is pretty amazing. So, you know, the people we're working with have to really live up to a pretty high standard.
That's true, but that's because they've given us the standards which we have to set. And you know, obviously, Chris sets he cuts a pretty wide path there in what he wants to do as far as.
He expects top quality.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to make it look real, you know, and that's as immersive as it gets. And so
yeah, it's going to be like playing a movie.
So how are you catching up? You able to catch up with everything?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly caught up, at least at the high level. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts going on. So
hey, because here's a question for you. So like we're working with 3 Lateral, right? We're trying to get to work with them right now. Why don't you describe to the folks out there and tell them exactly how Yeah, I know. We've been meeting about this all week, right? So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with 3 Lateral and, you know, and what we're doing.
So that's kind of the hot topic right now.
It is.
We are talking to 3 Lateral about doing facial motion capture and doing, you know, really high resolution scanning. We've been looking at the quality of facial animation in Rise, and we want that to be our baseline, you know, for what we're going to see in the game. So we went to the people who did, you know, the best we've seen so far, and we're talking to them about, we're getting ready to start some testing with them. Going to do, I think we're looking at 4 heads right now and getting some really high resolution scans and testing out conversation system and things like that.
So what they do is they take the scan of people's heads, and then they create a mesh underneath, and they basically skin the head on the mesh, and then they make sure that all the morph targets or morphs line up to when I'm speaking to you, that's going to look like that in game, right? And all the movements, eyebrows, eyes, everything. Yeah,
they shoot. You know, they have this whole cloud of cameras that sit around an actor or model's head, and they have them, you know, create all these different expressions, which is pretty hilarious to watch. And then they use that as the basis for animating. You know, we'll shoot actual animation later, and actors recording dialogue, and they'll use that to create the animation.
So the cool thing for subscribers and pledgers and everybody out there is we're getting to use a lot of the things that they've actually pledged for. Like they got us a motion capture studio. We're using that to, with facial head cams to capture that. With the facial rig capture system that we're doing with them that we're going to be using for this. That's something they also got for us in stretch goal. So,
and one of the nice things is that 3 Lateral is actually customizing their rig to match the one we've got. So it'll what we see in the test is going to look like what we're going to create.
Again, high poly.
Yeah,
extremely lots of triangles.
Very.
Now, that's really cool, and that's kind of typical. That's kind of typical of what an outsource manager does. And now you and I have worked together before.
We have. Way back in the day.
At which company?
And that would be at Origin.
Origin Systems.
Yes.
And what projects were we on at Origin Systems?
We worked on one of the iterations of Privateer 2.
Yes, that's right. So we've been kind of dreaming about this game for a very long time.
We have. This is kind of the dream that we used to talk about back in those days. You know,
it's crazy.
You fly around in your ship and you land and you get out and you walk around and explore and all that stuff. So
yeah, that was now for those who don't know, there was a Privateer 2 that was started at Origin. It was you, me, Pete Shella, Sienna Wine, Chris was obviously the leading the project. But we were working with like Tracy Hickman. And that project got canceled when Chris left to go to start Digital Amble, which I left with. And then I think you went to Prophecy after that, right? Did you work on Prophecy?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I designed the Midway.
There you go. See, there you go. And so he's a spaceship guy, right?
Yeah.
And so, so then Privateer 2, The Darkening, which was Aaron's project, got renamed Privateer 2. It was just called The Darkening, renamed Privateer 2. And so it's funny because all the guys we've worked with for, you know, years ago, I mean, all the guys over at Foundry 42, yourself, myself, Olivier, obviously Chris Roberts, Mike, you too, right? So say hi, Mike.
Hey there, how you doing?
See, all of us have been like together for a while, and it's kind of fun to...
Oh, it was like homecoming.
Yeah.
You know, when I walked in, it's like, hey!
Well, we're lucky to have you. You're doing an amazing job, and the fans are going to get to know more about you as we go. Now, you are a Tolkien fan.
I am.
What's your favorite? Which is it? Just the Tolkien series that you like, The Hobbit, or the?
You know, all of it. I have read the Silmarillion multiple times.
You read the Silmarillion? That's a hard book to get through at times.
Yeah, I've read that multiple times. I've read the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, Unfinished Tales, Book of Lost Tales. I go deep. My nerddom doesn't go super wide, but it goes really deep in this area.
You know what I got the other day, which was funny, was a friend of mine turned me on to the BBC did a radio dramatization of that, and I got the CDs.
And Ian Holm played
yeah,
Frodo.
He did exactly. Yeah. I know, funny, right? And it's like you're driving around, and I don't want to get out of the car because you're just listening. They do an amazing job. Now, and they also did The Hobbit back in the '60s. And I have that. I'm going to listen to that later. It's a little different. I still don't know how they're making 3 movies out of that book, but
I'm going to walk away and not nerd out. So
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And you were born in where?
I was born in Ankara, Turkey.
Turkey. So you spoke
Turkish. My first words, we lived with my dad was in the military, and we lived off base with a Turkish family, and my first words were actually in Turkish.
Well, it says right here that you can recite almost all of the original Conan the Barbarian.
Yes, I watched that movie a lot in the 80s.
If it still comes on, you watch it?
Oh yeah,
No,
that's a
you
channel
can't help
stopper.
it.
I'm
Right.
flipping around. It's
It
like,
is.
it's on.
There's a
Gotta
few
watch
of
it.
those. Shawshank Redemption's another one
That's
for me.
it.
It just grabs me and I'm like,
Yep.
I'm stuck.
Ocean's 11 for some reason for me.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, look, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely,
And you
my
know, I
pleasure.
think the people out there are ready for a nice existential break with our very own art director, Mark Skelton.
So after eating, do amphibians have to wait an hour before getting out of the water?
Wow, guys, that was pretty cool. Now, guess what time it is? Time for... That's a lot of Fitzsmithies.
Too much, if we're being honest.
That's way too much. So let's get right to forum feedback. We've got a special show this week, and we got feedback, and then we've got something else coming that we're not going to talk about yet, but they get ready for it. From Tortuga. Cool. So, can you eject before your ship is destroyed?
I think you better eject before your ship is
Yeah.
destroyed, because after it's going to be too late.
Little bits of you ejecting everywhere, not so good.
Your eyes are blue. One blue that way, one blue that way.
Now that's death of a spaceman.
That is true. From Mason Grimm, can you overclock your power core and run it above the red line to increase power to the thrusters and or energy-based weapon systems, or even to feed more power to your shields at the risk of damaging, destroying the power plant or reliant components? Okay, that's a really good question. I think we've actually had something similar to this
Talked
before.
about the systems before, but yeah, I mean, basically, it's not just weapons. You can overclock different components on your ship. So the important thing there is that you have to be careful, because you could burn it out, destroy it, or just run with a lot of extra heat, which makes you easier to spot.
Nobody wants extra heat. And by the way, this next video was sent in by Gray Lobo.
Hey there, Wingman. Gray Level back. This time about
Gray Level back again with questions.
whereas regular gasoline,
If I purchase something
Gray Level
else,
back
again with
I now have no idea.
again. You know, it'll be on the inside of our
We even
truck.
carry things.
Hey there, Wingman. Gray Level back again with a question. This time about safety, specifically the safety of the ships that we'll be flying. Now, I'm over here at a U.S. DOT inspection station. Just had a level 2 inspection done and passed. But that brought up the question in my mind: will there be inspections in the verse as well?
So that was a lot of videos.
That's a lot of trucking.
That's all. I'm not gonna do the mother trucking joke
It
right
was
now.
very busy.
Yeah, he was busy. So yeah, you know, he was busy, and he sent us some videos. So appreciate that. So, but we chose the one we liked the most. So, will we experience ship inspections in space? What do you think?
It's not a bad idea. I mean, it's not something we've really thought about too much, but I think it sounds cool.
Yeah, I think, you know. What
Checking
do you think?
for
We're
contraband.
building those way stations for the jump points.
There we go. Scan you on the way through. Make sure you're not carrying anything illegal.
Well, the UAE's going to want to know if you are friend or foe.
I think they're going to want a piece of the action, too.
That's probably true. From Michael Slivern, he says, something I've been wondering, will we get some sort of livable area? I mean, the hangar is cozy and all, but is there a possibility of living somewhere like an apartment or an in-house planet side?
But you can't sleep in your gray cat buggy?
You can't. You can if you're like small. I mean, it's just, but are we going to have housing in the game? Is there going to be housing?
We are going to do something like that. We're going to do a hangar expansion system.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. We are currently working on a hangar expansion system, and so you'll get a kind of a taste of that as we go through the next few months, where you'll have living quarters, and we'll be building out from the hangar on these things. While we have multiple teams, don't forget, in multiple locations. Some are working on dogfighting, which is Santa Monica's primary responsibility. We're working on the livable player universe here in Austin. So and then Aaron's obviously doing Squadron 42 and stuff over there. So we do a lot of that together, but we also we're all building the experience together. So yes is the answer to that question. From Irina.
Hey guys, Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here. As you can see, I have my hands full. I was wondering, if I have an LN and an LX, and I apply an LN token to my LX when my boys are covering my 6, could I then remove it later when they're at school or football or out with their dates and just use the LX as my exploration ship? Or does that burn that token and turn it into another LN for good? Just want to know, single moms, we don't really have that much money to spend on all ship for every one of our children.
Cool question, and cute kids?
Yep, and the answer is that once it's used, it's used. The upgrades aren't something you're going to pick up in the game. You're actually going to apply them to your ships starting today. On the website, you can go in and turn the ship in your package into whatever the upgrade you purchased was. We'll have details on the comm link this afternoon.
There you go, man. That is topical.
And another person also asked, it's 1 upgrade per ship. You cannot apply multiple upgrade packages to a single ship.
That's right. It's not a good way to get cheap equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're always trying to game the game.
Yeah.
Well, you can't blame them. That's a good trying. From Gabrielle Comsa.
In the event of such damage, for instance failure of one engine on a dual-engine craft, or damage to the output nozzle of an engine, damage that would make the ship want to veer off course, will the ship's flight computer adjust the output of the maneuvering thrusters in such a way to keep the ship flying straight while the controls are at neutral? Or will it be the pilot's job to compensate for such disturbances and fight the controls to keep the ship flying in a straight line?
I think that's Gabriel Agate.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a show if I wasn't butchering somebody's name. Again, my apologies.
Tradition.
So, how's that going to work? If a thruster is destroyed, is it going to compensate with a computer? Is it going to be, you're going to have to do it with your joystick? What?
I think it's going to try to compensate as much as it can, but there's a point of no return. At some point you just don't have enough thrusters left, so your ship starts going.
That might be a good time to practice that ejection.
That's right. Prior to blowing up.
There you go, Gabriel.
Good job.
So yeah, you're welcome. Listen, and now our surprise segment is coming up right after this week's most valuable post.
Hey everyone, welcome to MVP. I'm Ben Lesnick, and I'm here to tell you what the most valuable post this week at the RSI forums was. First, a little bit of business. We've made some changes to the RSI forums in the past day or so that you may or may not be aware of. Now, people with Backstar Citizen will show with a green badge under their avatars, and people who haven't will show in black and white. So if you want your avatar to be in color and to be able to access some of the deeper areas of the forums, you need to pick up a Star Citizen package. I'm okay though. Now on to the most valuable post. This week goes to a post you may have seen about the Banu Merchantman. This thing right here. This week's award goes to Grishord for his thread about which end is the front of the Banu Merchantman, which it turns out is a very touchy topic because it led to 48 pages of heated speculation. One of the great things about this community, every little thing matters, just like it does to the team here. So after all that talk, we tracked down the artist who created the ship and our visual director, Chris Olivia, and we confirmed that the elongated end is indeed the front, and everyone seems to be happy with that. So Grishord, thank you for keeping the forums interesting this week. You're our MVP. Now I'm going to hop in my Constellation and fly out of here.
Thanks, Ben. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Since subscribers make all this possible, along with Jump Point Magazine, Wingman's Hangar, all the stuff we do out there as far as filming and getting stuff for you, we thought it was important that we put something special together just for them.
Hello everyone, so this is the inaugural 10 for the Chairman segment that we're going to do in the Los Angeles show. and this is where we take 10 questions from subscribers who their generous backing allows us to do all this community communication, work, video, and this show here, as well as the stuff that we do in Austin, like Wingman's Hangar, and the behind-the-scenes stuff. So thank you all to subscribers, and we take 10 questions every week. Funnily enough, the very first question is from 10. And he asks, I'm curious to know about the hardware setup required to run Star Citizen on full HD on max details. So that's a really good question. It's hard to definitively say that now because we're still early in the development process and new hardware comes out every year. Generally we've been aiming that the very high end of hardware now is kind of what we think the sort of mid-level will be by the time the game is fully finished. So that would have been a GTX 680 or now a 780 on the NVIDIA side, or on the AMD side a 7970, or now the R9 290X on the AMD side. And you should be able to easily run in the highest details the game in 1080p. If you want to move to 4K, you'll probably need sort of that very high-end cards that will be available smoothly in 4K, that is, next year, or maybe current day sort of high level to mid-high level card, but 2 of them in SLI. And the engine scales really well, so it can, it will take whatever you can give it in whatever resolution you give it, but you can also scale it down and it still looks pretty good. So if you don't have quite that highest end hardware, it'll still be a pretty good experience. So I hope that answers the question. So now let's get on to the next one. So Maburus asks, now that CIG is development infrastructure ready, are you planning or toying with new ideas for future projects after Star Citizen is released? Some vague schedules for bigger expansions to Star Citizen, Squadron 42, or even non-Star Citizen related project. So the answer to that is we're 100% focused on Star Citizen here, and the way that Star Citizen is being created is once it's released, that won't be the end of Star Citizen. We're going to actually planning to be releasing content on a very regular schedule. We're actually hoping to almost be weekly if we possibly can. So we'll be constantly updating the persistent universe, adding new features, locations, ships, characters over hopefully years and years and years and years. I mean, obviously that requires on people playing the game and us still being a viable enterprise, but EVE Online is still going 10 years later, so we would love to be in that same position. Then we'll also do some additional story segments, very much like Squadron 42. So Squadron 42 won't be the only single player experience we do. We will be doing additional experiences like that people will be able to play inside the Star Citizen universe. So the answer is yes, we are going to do a lot of stuff in Star Citizen, but not so much, we don't really have any plans for non-Star Citizen stuff, because we sort of view Star Citizen as it's not a short-term commitment, it's a very long-term thing, and hopefully you guys will all be playing and enjoying it many years to come. So on to the next question. Okay, Buran asks, will Radar Shadow be present in the game? So yes, the answer is yes, Radar Shadow will definitely be present in the game. We have all different kinds of sort of radar signatures you can have, whether it's sort of a heat signature, electromagnetic signature, or reflective signature. And we're also thinking of different ways that you as a player could shield yourself from someone else detecting you. So there will be an aspect of being able to sort of play sort of the stealth angle, and maybe you can shield yourself behind an asteroid, or maybe you can shut down a bunch of systems so your signature's really small, or you could coat your ship in a certain kind of armor that would give you a much lower reflective signature. So we'll definitely have Radar Shadow be part of that, and we're hoping and think it's actually going to add a lot of fun to the gameplay and nuance, because there's just a lot of different options for people to take things in space, and that's kind of part of the thing that we're pretty excited about with what we're doing with Star Citizen. Okay, on to the next one. Whiplash asks, is the plan to just make dogfighting an arena-style shoot-'em-up, or will there be some specific scenarios to test? Okay, so the answer on that is in the very first iterations of dogfighting, it'll be mostly just an arena-style shoot-up, head-to-head, or flying against some AI, maybe 2 teams, red, blue would be sort of the standard teams, although we think we may switch that up to be a bit more fun than red versus blue. Then maybe later on we'll do some scenarios, but the idea of the dogfighting test isn't really to deliver a fully fledged game like you would normally expect. This is really for us to sort of test the back-end infrastructure for multiplayer, the balancing of the ships, seeing if the flight model and everything's fun. So it will be an iterative process. So, you know, the early parts of any of the modules are obviously going to be a lot rougher than the final polished version is, but it's all in the effort of making the game as good as possible. So I guess bear with us on those. Okay, on to the next one. Herne asks, I'm interested to learn what Chris's personal preference is for his hands-on throttle and stick with Star Citizen. Does he prefer pitch and roll on the stick or pitch and yaw? So that's a pretty good question. Generally, in the past in Wing Commander, it's been sort of pretty much a pitch and yaw setup. But I'm playing around with the idea that we have G-forces on pilots in our sort of dogfighting part, and obviously in that case, just as a human being, you can take greater gravity in the vertical than you can, eyes out, eyes in, or in the lateral G section. So that's why one pilot will roll and then pitch if he wants to. I mean, he could do his rudder and do this, but he'll do that because he can actually do it quicker. So that would probably affect whether it would be pitch and yaw or pitch and roll. I mean, right now the default is pitch and yaw with a roll on the rudder pedals, but that may actually change to be more accurate to real playing, which would probably be pitch and roll on the joystick and then yaw on the rudder pedals. Okay, on to the next one. Ice asks, can you clarify the PvP slider? I see a lot of threads where people believe this affects the whole game, where I believe it to only affect the random encounters during the autopilot. Okay, so the PvP slider is an input to the game's matchmaking system to give it a hint of kind of like who it should be matching you with. So what happens is when you fly around in space, you have, you're in your worldview, your universe view, and the server up there is basically looking at where you are and is looking at everyone else and all their different machines and basically seeing where everyone else in the galaxy, and if it feels like, oh, there's someone close to you or there's an AI that's close to you, it basically would tell your local client, okay, this person's close to you and that person would be streamed into your instance, or that AI will be streamed into your instance. And so the PvP slider is essentially an extra variable for the matchmaking criteria. So the matchmaking criteria is on a whole bunch of things. So it's on things like ping, which is, obviously we don't want to be putting people together. There's huge latency. It's on whether who's your friends, who's your enemies, who's your people of interest. It would have some level of skill rating in there, so we'll kind of sort of track if, are you a new player or you're super experienced. And based on that, in most of the areas, because some areas there won't be any, it'll be whoever's there versus whether it's PvP or not. But if you basically said, hey, you know what, I would prefer to have more PvE than PvP, it would give a preference to the AI flying around rather than a real player. So if there's an AI pirate and there's a real player pirate, it would drop the AI pirate into your instance to fight if you were more towards PvE than PvP. You definitely would get other players stream into your space that wouldn't be hostile, say maybe a friend of yours or something, so you could definitely get a co-op kind of feeling. That's going to be an ongoing process, but the whole idea with it is you should be able to fly around the game, and if you wanted that more sort of privateer freelancer experience, that's kind of what will happen to you. It'll just be mostly you'll see AI, and then if there's other players, they'll be probably friendly players, or if you're in like certain areas of space where there's no holds barred, then it definitely could be a unfriendly player, but you'll sort of know that, okay, well, those are the dangerous areas, so if you're a new player and you don't really want to be dealing with tough other players, then you probably should avoid those. And I would like to say one other thing is you definitely can have NPCs that are tougher than any player could ever be, since it's a computer that runs it knows exactly where you are, and it can calculate the correct firing solution much better than a player could ever do. So I think it is a bit of a misnomer to think that NPCs aren't necessarily as tough as real players. In some cases, NPCs could be tougher than real players, but essentially the slider just sort of allows you to affect the kind of people that would stream into your space as you're traveling across the galaxy. And hopefully that'll mean that if you sort of want to play the more privateer style game, and just by yourself, you can have that experience. You want to play with your friends and sort of co-op against other AI, that can happen. But also if you want to mix it up with other players, that will also happen too. And, you know, we'll have some other stuff. I mean, I know that there's always a question where people are always worried, well, what if that's an exploit and can you change it dynamically? And we're not going to let you change that dynamically while you're flying around. So it's kind of a setting that you have as you fly around. And like I said, there are some areas that are no holds barred, and those areas will also have some really cool stuff in. So I'm hoping at some point, like, you get brave enough and you get good enough, you would go to these areas to, you know, I don't know, get this one particular kind of weapon that you can't get elsewhere, or salvage an alien wreck. But you have to take some risks to get there. So it's a sort of risk-reward basis. So I hope that answered the question on the PvP slider. Okay, on to the next one. So Roberto Elena asks, are you willing to redesign cockpits, size of displays, fonts, field of view, etc., once the final specs of the Oculus Rift consumer version are known, if you think that is needed to be playable and enjoyable with the Oculus Rift? I would say that if the Oculus Rift works correctly, we shouldn't have to do that. And we would not be redesigning ships or cockpits or anything for one peripheral that we're going to work with, even if it's a peripheral that everyone's excited about, and you know, we're excited about it. I have a Rift sitting right on my desk right now. I will say that you know, we're pretty in sync with the Oculus folks. You know, we have the HD prototypes, you know, in Austin and here in LA, and obviously the new stuff coming out, we sort of get to see it in a very early stage. And I would say that our current setup is going to work really well with it, and you know, we're focused on making that sort of kind of VR aspect of the game work, have the stereoscopic all work really well. So I don't think we'll need to redesign our assets, or we probably wouldn't, but we're pretty confident it's going to work well with the way everything is shaping up as it is. Okay, on to the next one. Ron Miel asks, in the dogfighting module, how will ammunition and missiles be handled if there is no store or economy to reload? Okay, so the idea with the dogfighting module is that you'll start in the hangar, and in the hangar you'll be able to load up the holo table, and then you'll basically, you know, use that to decide what your loadout is on your ships, what ammunition you've got, etc. And then you get into the cockpit of your ship and you fire it up, and then the outside of the cockpit sort of, you know, I don't know, like turns into the holodeck, and now you're in space. And then you fight there. But while you're flying in the dogfight module, actually out in space, you can't reload your missiles or anything like that. But between battles, you'll be back in your hangar, and then you can adjust your loadout. And that's kind of the fiction. It's sort of the fiction as you climb the cockpit and it goes into simulation mode. But that allows us to leverage the stuff that we already have in the hangar, because the whole point of this is to sort of build on game systems. So we don't want to do custom stuff just for a module. We want to do it the way it would do in the final game. Naktabar asks, but what module do you plan next after dogfighting? Care to share what you are planning? I'm guessing Naktabar isn't first language isn't English, but that's cool because we have lots of great supporters from around the world. So the module we're planning to do right after dogfighting is the planetside module, and that one is the module that's more focused on down in planetside environments, going into, say, a space bar or into a shops to buy and sell items or goods, and you know, sometimes I think we refer to it as a social module, because we're going to allow, that's one of the modules we're focusing on, to let other players be in the shared space and test our MMO backend and maybe interact with other players on a sort of avatar social basis. So that will be the next module that we do after the dogfighting module. Okay, so Bess asks, is the plan to release Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe at the same time, or will one come out before the other? Good question. I mean, from our standpoint, I think we want to give you Squadron 42, or at least part of it, before the Persistent Universe is finished, so to speak. And we're kind of toying around with how we can do this with Squadron 42 in a way that sort of falls into the methodology we're using and sort of development methodology, because I think giving you the whole Squadron 42 is just an alpha may not work as well, because it's a story, so it needs to be fairly polished as far as that goes. So one of our thoughts is to take Squadron 42 and sort of release it episodically. So you know, before the game is fully finished, where you play the first X number of missions that are nice and well done and polished, and then the next X number of missions a month later, and so on, until you've worked your way through Squadron 42, which would lead you up to the sort of beta of the Persistent Universe. So that's currently our thinking. It's still in process right now, but we'll see. But when the game is finished properly, You know, obviously Squadron 42 and Peterson Universe, Star Citizen would all be sort of in as part of the package. Okay, that's it. That's the last of our 10 questions and our first 10 from the chairman. So thanks for sitting with me. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, but I hope you all found my answers useful and enlightening, and I'll catch you next week.
Well, there you go. The subscribers got their questions answered directly from the man himself. And if you want your questions answered from Chris, got to be a subscriber. So thanks a lot for that. 10 for the chairman. Look for that more often. Love it, love it, love it. Want to thank you, Chris, for doing that. Want to thank subscribers and pledgers again for doing this. It's a lot of thanks for subscribers, but I think you guys have actually earned it. And coming up this week, Hangar update. What? Say what? Yeah, it's coming. We're testing it right now. We want to get it ready, get something going. We got 2 of them we're planning to put out before Christmas holidays. I don't want to give too much away because it's more fun to be surprised. So that's coming out. Office moving and planning working. We're working with, as I said, Mike Jones, the IT director. We're going over there and checking the wiring and make sure we get everything else going correctly. We're going to have a gigabit line there, which is really exciting for those of you out there. It's amazing. We need that level of speed with distributed development that we have in Montreal, Santa Monica, Austin, Manchester, and Perforce servers at all locations. We need them, exchanging information, and sometimes some of the files are rather large. So the more bandwidth we have, the better off and more efficient we get. Sandi's in town today. She's doing some interviews, which I don't want to give too much away, but it's always good to see her. She's got some really cool stuff going on. And we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you find out exactly what's going on, when it's going on. You get a little alert. Apparently I can't speak English, but if I could, I would tell you get a little alert, and you'll know the first one. You'll be one of the first ones to know when things happen, and I'll try to quit stumbling along here. Submit your questions in the RSI forum. That's where we get the forum feedback questions in the general chat. If you're a subscriber and you want your questions answered by the man, you need to submit them in the subscriber area. That's where those are going to be, and we'll draw from there in that pool every time we do that. And please check out Wingman's Hangover 15 minutes after the show. It's kind of a join us in chat roll. We'll have a little fun. We'll talk directly, maybe take a Skype call here or there, but we'll just chat and see what's going on. It's kind of a little more informal, which, yeah, hard to believe. I know, but it's a little more informal than this, and it's more personal. We just get together and hang out, and that's always a fun thing to do. And remember, if you want your stuff featured on Wingman's Hangar, send it in. We just might use it. 2 episodes to go until we hit the 1-year anniversary. See you in the verse.
It's okay, baby. We can wait. What if you just use your hand? What? Excuse me. One moment, gentlemen. Dum dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum. Dum dum da 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 dum.